Coding Challenge Review, Expert, 13th of February. So, what we got today, guys? Question number 1. Very interesting, very interesting. Hard switch. So, we have an object with keys and values, and we want to switch them. So, whatever the key is, now will become the value, and whatever the value is, now will become the key. And on top of that, we want to switch the case. So whatever we had in lowercase should be uppercase and vice versa, right? Hello Codiri, Codiri hello. So this is relatively simple question. We receive an object, and as part of the object, essentially what we want to do is let's return. How do you get the keys of the object? Correct. Object.keys. Someone is joining, I believe, right? So here you go. Right. So as I was saying, let me go back. Right. So object.keys, and then we receive an object that will give us the keys of the object. So then we can easily use reduce. So with reduce, I'm going to keep an object with the switched keys, right? So I'm going to call it switched as the first argument, and then as the second argument. What do we have the second argument of reduce, guys? Value. Yeah, value. Would you call it value? Do you think value is a good name? What? Say it again, Bala or Mo? Key in singular, right? Yeah, I like that. If you do object.keys, that will be an individual key, right? Cool. So then, because I want to return an object, what will be the default value of the accumulator? An empty object, right? Yeah. Correct. Empty object. And now, so first of all, I know that I want to switch the keys with the values, but I also need to switch the case. To switch the case, I'm going to create a function called switch case, which receives a string. So to switch the case of a string, we can simply return string.split, right? As usual, let's transform the string into an array of characters, right? And then for each character, we'll do map to transform the case, and eventually what? What? I have a string, and I want, so they can join, that's correct, Poppy. Split, then do our magic, and then eventually revert it, right? Put a string back. So I got a character. So then I can return if character is uppercase, then transform it to lowercase, right? Otherwise what? Correct. To uppercase, right? Something like that. Why I'm creating a utility function? First of all, to abstract the complexity of switching the case into a function, and then to avoid duplication, because I need to do that twice for the keys and the values, right? So now, before I forget, let me return switch. Let me return the accumulator to the next iteration. But before that, we can even create a variable, let new key. So what will be the new key of the object? It will be based on the value. How do we access the value associated to that key? Correct. Object square bracket key, right? So that will give us the value. But now, because we want to switch the case, we can simply invoke the switch case function, right? Make sense? And then, I'm not going to do that, guys. New value. What? Switch case of what? A what? Value. What's value? We don't have any value. Who said key? No, I don't want to get the index. I don't want to get the index. There is an easier way to do that. What? What you said? Key. Object square brackets key, but that's the same we wrote before, right? That's not correct. So just the key, right? That's correct, right? So the value will be whatever the key was, right? Even simpler. So now let's add the new key equals what? New value, correct. Correct. That's it. Nothing else, nothing more, right? Let's see if that works. It does work, right? Still missing semicolon here and there, right? A few little details. But apart from that, that works. Any question? That's arguably one of the simplest questions on the expert. Right? It's just about thinking the steps a bit. So let me see what you did here. So Bala, so he's converting the string, so he's a function to switch the case, which is pretty much what we did. So essentially he's done the same thing, right? Yeah, my only concern here is he's getting the keys. Oh, so that, to me, that line, Bala, feels a bit overcomplicated. You don't need the index, as we proved, right? Yeah? Cool. Thank you. Yep. Itamar. Again, he has a function to switch the case, which is all good, right? So if it's lower, converts to capitals and vice versa. And then, using for in, do you remember for in, guys? It works with enumerable properties, right? Like object properties. So that's pretty much the same thing, right? So for each property, then he's building essentially. So this is an alternative to reduce, equally valid, of course. Then, again, it's good. I can see that so far everybody's creating a switch case function. So that's a good thing, right? He's actually doing literally the same thing as well, so all good. Mo, the same thing, keys and reduce. And Megan, oh, switch 8. Oh, that's a bit exotic. So she's switching as well. And then she's using for each, right? It's similar to Itamar, right? So we've seen how to solve the problem using reduce, how to solve the problem using for in, Itamar, on the left-hand side. Here you go. And now Megan is proposing for each, which is valid as well, right? I still particularly prefer reduce because I find it a bit simpler, shorter. But anyway, that's absolutely valid. Yeah, let me. Where is yours, Poppy? Ah, yeah.
So I switched it first.
Yeah.
But I still want to do the function
Okay.
afterwards. I took a different.
So she's switching for object for bar drops in object. Yes, she's switching first. Yeah, but what's that, for example, new object line? I'm not sure, Poppy, and I'll tell you why. Because JavaScript is case sensitive, something that you ignored here. So if we open a snippet, I'll show you in a minute. So if we do let object equals first name Peter, can we have now another object called first name? Look at the capital F at the beginning, camel case versus Pascal case, right? So then if we return the object, you can see that actually we have two different properties. So the reason why Poppy's solution doesn't work, even though the idea is correct, that's because C first creates the new object and then no, but C creates a new object to switch the case, right? So that's a bit overcomplicated. Oh, wait. Letter to uppercase. That's wrong. So look, new object in theory is an object, right? If you do for bar letter in new object, letter will point to the key of each object, right? So the first letter will be probably almost over. The second letter will be check score. But then, look, you are transforming the entire string to uppercase. We don't want that. We don't want to transform to uppercase. We want to switch the case, right? Whatever was capital, it won't be capital anymore, and vice versa. Does it make sense, Poppy?
Yeah.
We don't want to transform to capitals. We want to change the case. That's the fundamental problem. Anything else, guys, on the first question? No? All right, question number 2. Get max value, recursion. We have an object. I love these kind of questions. We have an object, nested object, with lots of numbers, and we want to identify where the biggest number is. Could be anywhere, right, within this nested object. So let's use recursion. We have an object, so return object.reduce. I'm going to create the accumulator, something called max. And then the, no, sorry, not object.reduce, I forgot something, right? Let's get the values first. How do you get the values of an object? Correct. Object.values, object, then dot reduce max. What's the second argument, guys, of reduce? Value. Correct. So then I want to get the max value. What should be the default one of the accumulator? 0. That's controversial. That's controversial, Daniel. Because look at what happened on the second example. We got the negative one, right? Right. So for now, I'll do something very dirty, which is doing minus 100. But I will never submit that. But hey, it's baby steps. I come back to this value afterwards. So then, we got reduce. So eventually, we'll need to see if the current value is greater, is bigger than the max, right? If it's greater, new max will be value. If not, we'll keep the max as, you know. So I'm going to do something. I'm going to create a variable called candidate max, because that's a candidate. We'll see if it's greater or not, if it's bigger or not, right? And we'll do something here. And at the end, we'll return, is candidate max greater than max? If we got a new max, then return candidate max. Otherwise, Just return max, whatever it was, right? And now, the problem is here. To check if the current value is, or what the current value is, we need to check the type, because current value may be a number, in which case it's very easy to play with, but it could be a nested object, in which case we need recursion. Yeah, that's the complexity. The complexity of the problem is in this line. How do you check if we got a number or not in value? Correct. Type of value equals number, right? If you're still struggling with type of and you want to learn more about it, our friend Aisel will perform a workshop in 23 hours and 44 minutes.
How many seconds left?
Few. Cool. So, if it's a number, then the candidate is the value, right? Easy. In the first case, the candidate is number 2. But if it's an object in the second iteration, then to get the new candidate, we need to iterate. We need to invoke the function itself, right? Passing the value. That's the trick. Yeah, Daniel? That's the trick. So let's see if that makes any sense. Yes, it does. It does, right? So that's the way we solve it. Let me do something before talking about debugging and stuff like that. Does anyone know what's the best way to do that? That's a hack. That's horrible. Don't do that. What's the best way to set a very consistent, very robust, very solid default value of the minimum? Yeah? What number do we put here? 100. But why 100 and not 200 or not 3,000? Why? Whoa. Undefined. No, undefined doesn't make sense. If you put undefined, you'll then may have issues here comparing. There are different ways to do that. In classic JavaScript, there were different hacks. In modern JavaScript, starting from 2015, there is a very sexy way to do this. And because of a reason, the majority of the developer ignore that. So with modern JavaScript, you can do number dot min safe integer. What's number dot means safe integer? Is the minimum integer in JavaScript, right? And what's the minimum integer in JavaScript? Minus 900 billion, something like that, right? Why? It goes beyond the scope of the bootcamp, right? But that's the minimum number, right? Actually, if I try to do that minus 1, it still works. I can still, but look, no, wait. It doesn't really work, right? Why minus 2, minus 3? You see, it's not working. That's why it's the minimum safe integer. If you go below that, it's up to you, right? Right? This is like visiting some clubs in London at some time, right? You can go there. Up to you, right? We are not responsible of what happened there, right? So that's the same thing. Stick to the minimum. I think is right. So if we try that, it should, still works, but this is much more elegant. Because I don't care if I go to minus 2 million. Still works, right? It's very safe. It's really good. Cool. So now, question for you. I would like you to tell me, let's debug this, because I think that's a good exercise. So let's add some virtual breakpoints. I'm on dimension 1, iteration 1. Let's see how can we do that. It's going to be complicated. So something like that. So what's the first Cumulative, what's the first max? Let me copy that. Let me paste it. Yeah, I think it will be easier to... I'm going to put everything in one line. Just for reference purposes. So... if I got it, this is my object, dimension 1, iteration 1. What's the first max? Wrong. Wrong. Minus 9 trillion, whatever, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
Plus 0 is minus.
Correct. What's the first value? 2. Return? What? 2, correct. Then, iteration 2, still dimension 1. Iteration 2, what's max? Correct. What's value? Wrong. Wrong.
What is 1 and 4?
What's the value on dimension 1, iteration 2? Wrong. 1 point on the board challenge. Too late. You cannot change your mind.
Value is 4.
Wrong. 1.5 points. $1.75 points. What? 7. Wrong. 2 points.
1 and 4.
4.
1 and 4.
1 and 4. What's that?
Value.
1 and 4. Is that like 2 integers or
Yeah.
what's the type of the data?
Numbers.
Wrong. You already talked. I want someone else, please, to participate.
Or object. Value is object.
Correct. Natasha is right. Value is an object, C1, D4. Yeah? Natasha gets 2 points. Yeah, but I told you that you had one opportunity. So Natasha gets 2 points. Poppy gets 2.5 points this morning.
And board challenge.
And board challenge, correct. If I forget, let me know, please. So that's correct. Next value is this object, right? Because of that, what happened? What do we return? We don't know yet. We don't know yet. Because now we are jumping, we are drilling down into a new dimension. So, dimension 2. What's iteration 1? What's max? What? Minus 9 billion, correct. What's value? One, correct, Yaf. What do we return? What? 1, correct. Dimension 2, still. Iteration 2. What's max? What?
No.
4, wrong. 1. Correct. What's value?
4.
Correct. What do we return? Correct. So now, because this second dimension is over, now that object gets transformed into 4, because 4 is the biggest number in that object. So now we're comparing 2 and 4. What do we return on the second iteration of the first dimension? 4, correct. Is there anything else? Any iteration free, any new dimension? No, that's it, right? We are done. That's why this is the eventual number that gets returned, number 4. So this kind of training is vital to understand how recursion in JavaScript, Not even in JavaScript, in any programming language, to be honest, works. Any question? No? All right, so let's see what you did here. Question number 2. Bala, he did something very interesting here. He used math.max, yeah, which is completely valid, right? Instead of checking if it's one greater than the other, she's comparing if it's a number, give me the maximum of number and value. If not, give me the maximum of the number and recursion, right? So I like it. That's really good. Then Ben pretty much did the same thing we did, right? Typo, blah blah blah. All good. Mo, same as Bala, using math.max. Yeah, and that's pretty much it. Any question, guys?
Yes.
Yes?
Is there any way we could have just extracted the values and use, say, in the way Bala used math.min, math.max, just extracted the values from the object?
No, I don't think so. If you want to use math.max once, you can create the variable first. You can do candidate equals, is type of equals a number, then candidate equals value. Otherwise, candidate is that. And then you do math.max or out of max, comma, candidate, something like that.
Yeah, I was hoping for an object or something.
Nah, maybe one day. I'm sure that one day, right? But not today. Right. So, question number 3. I'm going to skip it because we covered that one already. This is one of the most complicated questions on Expert, and as a side effect, this is one of the most complicated questions on the entire training program. So if you still struggle with it, please review the previous workshop on Expert where we explain all the details about how to solve it. Question number 4. We solved it already, guys, right? We solved that one already. So let's skip it and let's focus on one of the simplest ones, which is about find even numbers. So we got a number, whatever the number is, and we essentially want to just keep the even numbers with a couple of particularities. First of all, sort it descendantly, so biggest numbers in front, and then remove the duplicates, if any, right? This is a good example. Yeah, so for example, on the second scenario, 4 is listed twice, but then we are only displaying it once, right? Okay, let's go for it. Unfortunately, we don't have the function name, so we need to type a bit. So find even numbers, I think. Find even numbers, correct? So we receive a number. So the first thing, as usual, is I'm going to do the split, all these things, right? Return. No, I'm not going to return anything yet, so I'm going to create a variable called events. And then I will do numbers dot split, right? So let's get an array of individual numbers as strings. And then, because I want to have an array of individual numbers, not numbers as strings, how do we transform an array of strings into an array of numbers? Map, number. Correct. You remember this trick, right? Cool. So now, hopefully, actually, this is wrong. Can anyone see why this is wrong already? It's wrong because of 2 reasons. So number and numbers, Aisel is right. And what's the other problem? Correct. To use a split works with strings. Yeah. Number, that's correct. 2 string, right? Okay, so now I got my list of numbers. I'm going to use filter just to keep the even ones, right? So I got the digit here, and then I will keep the digit if what? divided, modulus, equal 0, right? So that will return an array of all the even numbers. Let's sort it as well, right? Sort, because we want to sort them descendantly. Number 1, comma, number 2. So then what? Correct, Daniel. Number 2 minus number 1. So now, at this stage, hopefully, and I'm 75% sure that's correct, we get something like that. 4, 4, 2, 0. We need to remove the duplicates. We need to join new set, correct. Let's use new set, guys. So I'm going to return, look at how sexy this is. Dot, 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 new set, events. So that will give me an array with the unique numbers, but what do we want? We want a number. So to transform from an array of numbers into a number, let's first convert it to a string. Yeah? And then to transform that into a number, let's do it in 2 ways. First of all, the classic way. Yes, give me a second, Aisel, please. So let's see if that makes any sense. Let's transform everything into a number, and then, oh, it doesn't work. Why this doesn't work, guys? Can anyone see the problem? Sorry, you are talking at the same time. I cannot follow you. Any?
Why do you transfer to string twice?
Why we transform? We need that because if we want to play with arrays,
Yeah, I know, but then it's already string.
it's already string, but I want to play with numbers because I want to get the modulus.
Oh, yeah, then you
Yeah,
convert it to
yeah,
number,
right. So Dave, sorry, what you said?
I just thought that we internally converted to string. I thought that was a problem, but probably not.
No, that's correct. The problem, as I think Daniel suggested, say it again, Bala? Correct. We need to join it, right? So once we have the array, we need to join it to have, actually, we don't need the two-string thingy, right? Yeah. So we have an array, we join it, so we have a string, and then we transform it to a number to get an eventual number. And that works like a charm. So something did, I think it was Bala, and I found particularly interesting, is with JavaScript, there is a different way to transform strings into numbers. Look, I'm going to get rid of number, and I'm going to put plus. Or more. Okay. So that's an interesting pattern. Interesting, right? You may agree, you may disagree, but I found it interesting. So if we try it again, it obviously still works. Yeah? I don't think so. I don't think so, Aisel. I think this is classic JavaScript. Yeah. Yeah. So generally speaking, we tend to think that if it's the first time we see something, it's because this is, oh, that's modern JavaScript. That's JavaScript 2021, right? That's why I've never seen it. But maybe this has been there for 20 years, right? Because of a reason, the community didn't adopt it, right? Anyway.
Sorry,
Yep.
point of clarification. You often refer to modern JavaScript.
Yeah.
Are you referring to ES6?
Correct. Yeah.
You're not referring to 18 or anything more than
When we say modern JavaScript, generally speaking, we said ES6 plus. ES6 plus means any release of JavaScript that was released starting on 2015. Why 2015? Because in 2015, by the first time in history, TC39, which is the Swiss group based on Geneva, I think, that looks after the JavaScript standard, they decided that it was not a good idea to offer a new release of JavaScript every 4, 5, 6, 7 years. So they moved to Agile. You remember Agile, what Jeff presented? Starting from 2015, JavaScript became Agile. That means every year, generally speaking in July, there is a new version of JavaScript. Every July, there is a new version. With just few features, maybe.
Every July.
Yeah, every year, at some point in summer, right?
Check up in July.
Yes. Also, if you like JavaScript, fortunately now, so there is an open group which have a GitHub. So in here, on the ECMA TC39 group, you have a project with proposals. So in here, if you have any good idea about how to improve JavaScript, you can drop your proposal. It's pretty good, right? That's pretty good because everyone can contribute to JavaScript, right? So then you can see that there are different stages, right? So there are, I think the first one is stage 0. Stage 0 means something is proposed. Stage 1 means it has approved by the community. You know, there are several steps. That may take years. It may take years. But Promises is a good example of something that someone created and then it escalated over time and now it's part of the standard. So, yeah, and here you can get a good idea about what will come next as part of the JavaScript world, right? Anyway, any question, guys? Let me see what you did, and then let's call it a day. Question number 5, find even numbers. Poppy. I like that, using set, right? And then after set, so Poppy is first of all removing the duplicates and then C sorting, right? Both are equally valid, looks good. Daniel is literally what we explained, right? Split, map, filter, sort, and then look at the plus. Yep, sounds good, Daniel. Ben, it's very similar, right? New set. He's using a classic for loop. Remember, forgotten JavaScript structures, not for him anymore. All good. And then we got Itamar. Still very similar. So he has yeah. As I said last time, once Itamar is back, I'm very interested to get his opinion because I find this solution everything but natural to me personally. Yeah, because I don't really understand that line, for example, split comma, what that means. And then why %? Why a radix of 10? I don't know. It's a typical thing that obviously if you spend some time, you can understand, right? And that, don't get me wrong, I'm not saying this is a bad solution. I just found it overcomplicated. But maybe it's because this is more solid, this is better in some aspects, right? It's not necessarily wrong. Whenever you think something is not what you expect, it's good to give that person the opportunity to defend the idea, right? For example, that happened with Mo with the plus. I found that a bit strange because I never use it, but then he defended, and then you may like it or not, but I think that's perfectly fine, right? So the same thing may happen with Itamar. I just want to get his thoughts. And then Bala, split map filter, short map filter. Yeah, so this is the way he's avoiding using set, right? So he's filtering to just keep unique values, which is fine. I just found it a bit more complicated, but that's obviously acceptable. Yeah, Bala? Yeah. Okay, cool. Thank you, Bala. And then same thing for Mo. One more thing, as you already know, I completely dislike empty lines. I know, I understand, I reckon that's a personal appreciation. But generally speaking, the argument is always the same. We add empty lines to make your code cleaner. If you need empty lines to make your code cleaner, it's because you're doing something wrong, right? It's either because your function is too complicated or your function is too long. Either way, it could be a good opportunity to split part of the logic into a new function. Do you remember the switch case? I think it was the first question, right? The majority of you agreed, like Ben, that it was a good idea to create a function to encapsulate the complexity, right? That's much better in the long term than just adding empty spaces. Anything else, guys?
You did mention you had something to raise about an answer.
Oh, yes.
Right,
Michael is completely right. Yes, so this morning, I mentioned that one of the questions that, to be honest, we didn't review, the solution wasn't good. That one, exists number in objects. Even though we haven't reviewed it, because we reviewed it already, this morning, I had a look to what you did. Yeah? I was clearly expecting you to use recursion, as the majority of you did, like Bala, Daniel, right? But look at what Ben did. Ben. What do you think about that? Even if you have a deep object, I mean, to be honest, in that question, we have deep objects, right? Look at the second, the third. I mean, in all the examples, you have objects inside of objects. So you have nested objects, deep objects, right? And it works. It works. Can anyone tell me why this solution is not good?
Even though it's right.
Say it again?
Even though it's right.
Even though it's right.
Half of us or something.
Yeah. So look, it works because of it's compatible with these 1, 2, 3, 4 examples. But we can easily break it. And actually, because of that, I'm going to change the question to make it a bit trickier. So I'll tell you what the problem is. If one of the numbers in the object is, for example, 12, right, 12, and the number we're looking for is 1, the function will say that 1 is, well, 1 is a bad example, because 1 is here, right? Let me change that. Let me change that, guys. Let's think about, at the bottom, we have A, B, C, D, E, F. F equals 30, 30, right? And the number we are looking for is 3. Should the function return true or false?
True.
It should return false.
It should
It
return
should
false.
fall from that equal.
That's correct. That's the problem. That's correct. Even though we're looking for number 3, and here we clearly don't have number 3 because we have 1, 2, 4, 5, 30, Ben's solution will return true because number 3 is included in the stringified version of our complex array. Yeah? That's why we shouldn't do that. It works fine for very simple scenarios.
Changes you have
Yeah, I'll change it now. Correct. Yes. I would say following ISO suggestions and yes, Bala. Yes. Yeah, I'm sure you can work on that, right? But at the end, to me, whatever goes is different to using recursion is a bad pattern, unless you can provide a good example, right? Cool. Anything else, guys? No? So that was it for today. Thank you very much. See you soon.